Alright, so we have another tower. And let's see if we can get more insights. So again, bottom is physical world, top is hyper-dimensional vision. And on the top screen, you get to see the ascension points and the descension points, the points where you can teleport to other planes. And on the bottom, it'll just be a simple cube every time. That is the structure of the fourth dimensional tower. So we see this cube, right? We see this cube, we're at the bottom floor, we're in the back, and the rest of the cube is that way. And in this little crevice of the cube, there's an ascension point. Let's see if there's anything else beyond that. There's an ascension point right here where I'm standing, as you can see from that. So there's an ascension point right here where I'm standing. Let's see if there's anything else. There's an ascension point in this area right here, as you can see from that. Okay, let's take a look downward. And there's an ascension point. There's an ascension point in this area, as you can see from that. So there's 4 ascension points. I bet I'm at the bottom of the tower because that's how it's been this whole time. So yeah. So this is the bottom cube right here. And let's see, cubes or cells in this 2x2x2 cube that we don't have access to. We don't have access to this cell, and we do not have access to this cell right here. So if you would break the floor right there, and if you would break the floor right there. So maybe we go through those transdimensionally to get somewhere, you know, like it's been proven in other parts. So first ascension point that we're going to explore will be this one that's stuck inside this little crevice right here. So let's take a look up. As you can see, you can travel upward to the second cube. And like I mentioned before, when you take a look down this hallway, in the physical world, it's kind of like a repetition of the same back, left, bottom part of the cube. So back, left, bottom. So right here, as you can see, this is the back, right, bottom. So we're on the bottom floor because the top floor is right there. We're in the back because dark red is back, and we are in the right side of the cube. So we're right here on the right side because the left is that way. So back, bottom, right. And if you take a look transdimensionally, so keep your eyes over here. If you take a look transdimensionally, so this is the back, bottom, right. That's the back, bottom, right of the second cube, of the second plane. That's the back, bottom, right of the third plane, and that's the back, bottom, right of the fourth plane. So yeah. Alright, so here's the thing to understand about when you're looking down the hall transdimensionally, down the transdimensional hall. Something that I thought about is that, you know, like when you walk in the physical world, let's take a look at the physical world, you see a continuity here. You see a continuity on the ground and on the walls, right? So there's no like shifting, there's no like stepping stones, you know, and you see a continuity up there. You see, so if you keep your hand on the floor, if you keep your hand on the floor while you walk, there won't be any separation. Okay, if you keep your hand on the wall, there's no like abrupt separation, right? There's just a continuous wall. And you know, on the floor too. So if you walk along the floor, there's a continuity on the existence of the floor, right? Same thing when you walk transdimensionally. When you walk transdimensionally, here you can only see the structure of the physical floor. I'm not really sure what that means yet. But the floor exists on this plane of existence. Here. The floor exists on this plane of existence, it exists in this plane of existence, and it exists on that plane of existence, and it exists everywhere in between, right? So when you travel transdimensionally, you will be on the floor. Your feet will be touching the floor the whole time. When you ascend, you'll ascend into a higher level, but your feet will still be on the floor. Your feet will still be on the floor on that higher level, on that higher plane, and just as your feet were on the floor on the lower plane, and your feet will be on the floor everywhere in between. So, get that straight. Let's see if I could come up with an example for this. So, just like my feet are on the floor right now, when I ascend to a higher plane, my feet will stay on the floor. And they will stay on the floor. And right now, you could just think of it as me traveling into a higher plane. My contact with the feet on the floor will remain looking like this. So my feet will have contact with the floor all throughout my ascension. What does that mean as far as traveling transdimensionally? What does that mean? I mean, it doesn't really look like you're going anywhere. It doesn't really look like you're walking anywhere. You're traveling to a higher plane, but in the physical world, it just looks like you're staying in the same spot. So that's one way to visualize the fourth dimension. It just looks like you're staying in the same spot. That correlates with, where you are here. I think I'm confused here. There you go. No? Okay, I'm upside down now because of the way that I decided to switch. Okay. So that correlates with how you look when you travel. It looks like you're staying in the same spot, right? And when you look at the transdimensional view, right, this is the same spot because that's the same spot as this, and that's the same spot as this, and that far away one is the same spot as where I'm at. Kind of like the mirror, right? When you walk through the hallway of mirror, it just looks like you're staying in the same spot because you are in the same spot. All right, welcome. We are in a new cube because I accidentally pressed the stop button. So this is a completely different cube. Anyway, so as I was saying, when you travel along that way, right here, kind of like the repeating mirror thing, right here, that's the same spot as here, that's the same spot as here, and that's the same spot as here. So when you travel transdimensionally, it looks like you're staying in the same spot. But watch this. Yeah. Let's see. There's an ascension point right there. Let's see what we can find out about this place. No, I still don't know if this is the back or the front. Alright, so there's nothing there. Here. Anyway, so let's kind of visualize that as we ascend, as we travel transdimensionally upward. Alright, so we see how this room looks like, right? So this is the right side, the top floor, and I'm not really sure if it's the back or the front, but we'll figure that out later. And as we ascend, now remember, it looks from, if there was another person perspective here, it would feel like we're staying in the same spot. If somebody was traveling with us, it would look like as if we're staying in the same spot, right? As if we're standing still, not walking anywhere, not floating. Our feet are attached to the ground as we ascend. And if you kind of keep that in mind, watch this. So we're staying in the same spot, but now it just looks like the walls have shifted, right? And the walls, well, you don't notice the shift there because it looks the same. You don't notice the shift there because it looks the same, and then the walls shift again. And now the walls have shifted, and now the floor is gone, right? Watch this. Right here we have a floor, and there's the dark yellow wall right here. The floor is gone and the wall is gone. Yeah. And now we know that we are in the back side of the room, because that's the front, the dark red is the back. But you can see how the walls shift, right? So I think that if we were to have example in real life, or if we were to try and visualize this in the physical world out here, you know, what it would look like, it would look like you're staying in the same spot. You know, your feet don't leave the ground. You're not taking any steps in any of the four flat directions, and you're not floating upward or sinking downward when you descend, or floating upward when you ascend. It would look like you're staying in the same spot, and everything else around you is shifting, right? The walls around you are shifting. And then I thought, well, it would look like that, and it would look like kind of like the passing through time. That's what it would look like if we were to travel transdimensionally. We're in the same spot, but just everything around you is shifting. That happens all the time. That's happening right now. The wind is moving. There's people moving. Doors are opening. What else? The water's flowing, the plants are growing. So what traveling transdimensionally reflects is just the passing of time, right? And so, you know, one tries to visualize what the fourth dimension would look like, spatial fourth dimension. But if you actually put yourself in the place, it would just look like the passing of time. And the passing of time is traveling in the fourth dimension. But we're not satisfied with that, right? But, you know, this has, you know, going through this has helped me to visualize the passing of time as the spatial fourth dimension. So, you know, I kind of understand the passing of time, that's temporal fourth dimension. Then there's the time-space continuum, which kind of relates time to space. But I kind of insist that there should be a spatial fourth dimension instead of just a temporal fourth dimension. But when I try to visualize the spatial fourth dimension, it just looks like time. So it's kind of like, that's a reaffirmation that the passing of time, that is a spatial fourth dimension. I guess what I'm not satisfied with is that I can't see it. I can't see, just like I can see into the distance, I cannot see into the distance forward. I cannot see into the distance ahead of time, into the future. I cannot see into the distance into the future. I can kind of infer what's going to be there by, you know, by kind of like the predictions. And I think that's, maybe we can see into the future, and that's how we can see, you know, into the fourth dimension, into the fourth spatial dimension. By seeing into the future, you know, we can infer what's going to happen next. We can have plans, you know, and that's exactly what we do in space, you know. But yeah, sometimes things are not clear because there's a wall in front of us, and, you know, that just kind of it's a metaphor for things that we can't see in the future because there's like a limit to our perception. The one way that you can be sure that you can see back in time is via the memory. Just like how you can look behind you, you can look into the past through the memory. Of course, your memory can get jumbled up and stuff. Maybe that's a way of your vision getting jumbled up. Yeah, so through the memory we can see into the past, and through planning and anticipation we can see into the future. But just like there's senses that we ignore because we consider them non-existent. I think I brought that up in the first video, that maybe we can see physically into the fourth dimension, but because we don't acknowledge it, we just kind of feel it as a sixth sense, you know? Memory might be one of those things. Memory may be our access to seeing into the past, and planning may be our access to seeing into the future. But because we don't believe in that, because, you know, our culture does not emphasize or kind of discourages us thinking that way, that the past is existent in the present and the future is existent right now. Because we're discouraged from believing that, we kind of like neglect the fact that we can actually do it. So maybe we do have this capability of seeing into the fourth dimension, but because we don't recognize it as such, we kind of don't acknowledge it, and we kind of ignore that it's already there. And so we try so hard to visualize the fourth dimension when really we can already see it, and it's already in front of us. But we kind of have like this detachment complex with that capability. All right, so we are in this cube. And so, I mean, if you want to think about it this way, another way that you could think about this maze is that, you know, downward, descension, that could be the past, and then ascension could be the future. So you can kind of see the tower as kind of a timeline of cubes, but you can travel into the past and into the future as you will, because, you know, we don't have, you know, it's a game and we don't have that limitation here. So depending on how the cube shifts at different points in time, you can travel into the past, into the future, so that the cube will shift eventually to something that you can exit out at the most future, at the top of the tower, you would say. So let's try that metaphor as we try to get out of here. But before I do that, let me explain one last thing. I'll think about it. All right, so you might be wondering, you know, in this game we have access to the past and the future. It's kind of like a direction that we can travel to. In every, you know, we can travel up, we can travel down, we can travel forward, back, left, right. Why can't we travel back in time if it's really a fourth spatial direction, a fourth spatial dimension? And what I could explain there is just kind of like the structure of the physical world, right? We would be able to travel back in time, but there's kind of like we keep traveling forward into the future almost against our will. And it's kind of like a force that pushes us into the future. And we can't, you know, maybe the way that our brains are structured or something. But think of it as gravity, right? Because yes, you can travel up, but then you come back down immediately. And that's the case in every situation. The same way, maybe we can travel into the past, or maybe the temporal force is a lot stronger than gravity, or a lot more persistent than gravity, so we can't travel back into the past. We can jump up, and we only jump like, I don't know, like a foot high, you know. We come back down immediately. Eventually, we've invented machines and we've like discovered ways that we can, you know, like sustain ourselves at a higher level, you know, through the use of airplanes, through the use of stairs, ropes, ladders, climbing. But eventually, we come back down here, right? So I kind of see time as having the same type of gravity. We travel into the future, and we don't really know how to go back in time, or stop time. We don't really know how to do that yet. Maybe in the future we'll invent machines that will allow us to do that. That will allow us to work against the gravity of time. But yeah, so yeah, that's another way to look at it. You know, it's kind of like a gravity that pulls us toward the future. Just like we have a gravity that pulls us toward the ground, and it doesn't matter what we do, we'll always come back down. There's kind of a gravity that pulls us toward the future, and we can try to go into the past, but eventually we'll start traveling into the future again, just like we always do. So yeah, that's the fourth dimension.